Welcome back to UnderCoverLies, where we expose Donald J. Trump's dictatorial and financial matters. This week we have a new segment called Trump's Week of Woe. This week the accounting firm of Mazars quit on Donald Trump. They are a leading international audit and tax advisory firm, which had been doing the Trump's accounting for 10 years, from June 2011 to June 2020, but just recently quit. They left him high and dry.
The accounting firm that handled Donald Trump's company's financial statements has cut ties, saying that years of reports are unreliable. That's according to a court filing on Monday, which comes during investigations into whether Trump misrepresented the value of his assets.
Mazars not only quit, but since Trump is under investigation in Georgia and New York for financial misdealings by saying his assets were worth so much for his own gain, but for tax purposes not so much. Mazars stated that their tax and other financial statements for the Trump empire from 2011 to 2020 could not be trusted. Also, with everyone finding out about Trump's bathroom habits, believing that any documents were his for the taking or destroying, and as Trump said, he had permission to do so. Who gave the president permission? With the news about Mazars, included with the world finding out about Trump's illegal bathroom habits, and finally with the U.S. Archives having to raid Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago to get 15 boxes of official documents, some of which are top secret, I'm sure this ruined Trump's week. Meanwhile, Trump's dumbest son, Eric, states that he will take revenge on the New York District Attorney who is investigating the Trumps and their empire for illegal financial dealings.
One of the biggest flashpoints in the 2016 presidential election came around records retention, emails, email servers, responsibility with classified and sensitive information, all directed at Hillary Clinton. Remember that this was the biggest storyline about Hillary Clinton. She would be in jail, Trump said, if I was president, because of what she did with emails and documents and so on and so forth. Every day now, I'm not exaggerating, every day, just over the weekend, each day, there was another major story about the Trump White House and records. And we're going to look at two of those stories now. And the first is that essentially a raid took place on Mar-a-Lago, where the National Archives showed up to get Trump's documents, many of which related to meetings with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Remember those love letters? Remember Trump said, and we fell in love. Trump did not turn over the records to the National Archives. He took them to Mar-a-Lago, and the National Archives had to go down there and get the records. This is an incredible story.
Who knows what Eric meant by that, but I'm sure he'll come up with something like they're trying to take all my candy or something like that. He and his daddy are so dumb that they react like children do. These latest reports, I'm sure, have given Trump his week of woe. Let's get back to expanding on how Trump corrupted the power of the presidency and wanted to be our dictator. What you have to understand is that Trump did not plan, organize, and carry out the attack on the Capitol on January 6th all by his loam. He had help.
Their day of action would be January 6th, when Congress would count electoral ballots and ratify the 2020 election results. For some, it was just a rally for their president. For others, it was a call to arms.
We have the power in numbers. March on Congress directly after Trump's speech.
In the weeks beforehand, there were over 1 million mentions on social media of storming the Capitol. Maps were shared of the building's layout. There was talk of bringing weapons and ammunition, and discussion over which lawmakers should be targeted first. This anger was based on a lie.
This election was a fraud.
A lie that had grown more frenzied after the election.
President Trump won this election.
They were flipping votes.
Steal the election in Philadelphia.
When you win in a landslide and they
steal the election in Atlanta.
And it's rigged.
Steal the election in Milwaukee.
It's not acceptable.
This is outrageous.
A lie spread by the president and his closest allies.
Let's call out cheating when we find it.
Some of whom stoked calls for violence.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow.
Everyone's going to remember who actually stands in the breach and fights tomorrow and who goes running off like a chicken.
We bleed freedom.
This will be their Waterloo.
And we will sacrifice for freedom.
This will be their destruction.
What happened next was chaos.
They broke the glass?
Insurrection.
Take it now! Treason! Treason!
Death.
He had help from MAGA, he had help from QAnon, he had help from his lawyers, Giuliani and Sidney Powell. I call him Rudy the Giuliani and Sidney the Kraken Powell.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
Both of them had a hand in helping Trump on January 6, 2020. He was the mayor of New York City during the attacks on the Twin Towers on 9/11/2001 by elements of Al-Qaeda. He then was Trump's personal lawyer at the time of the 2020 elections, and according to reports, he was the key person who started the mess about the election fraud and the illegal electoral voters' communications to the Senate and the National Archives. Rudy has reached the bottom of the barrel since he was suspended by the Bar of New York. So our beloved Rudy the Giuliani is being sued by Dominion and Smartmatic, makers of the voting machines, for as much as $1.3 billion. Even Trump did not pay him and won't talk to him now. I guess there really is truth to the saying, there is no honor amongst thieves. Another one of Trump's crazy followers is the lawyer, Kraken lady, known as Sidney Powell. You remember Sidney Powell? She's the one that, along with Giuliani, started spewing lies about election fraud right after the 2020 election to help out their client Donald Trump. She went as far as to say that China and Hugo Chavez, a one-time dictator who died several years prior to 2020, were involved in the fraud.
But according to Powell, the conspiracy against Trump didn't just involve Dominion. No. It was an international syndicate of globalists, communists, corporations, and ghosts, including the ever-present right-wing boogeyman George Soros, Hillary Clinton, and the very, very dead Hugo Chavez. Descansa en paz, Senor Chavez.
Recently, she has been walking back her statements about the fraud.
Sidney Powell is now casting her statements in a very different light. Powell responded to the lawsuit by saying that, no reasonable person would conclude that the statements she made about Dominion were truly statements of fact. In other words, the people to blame for taking the former lawyer to the President of the United States seriously were those in the MAGA base who believed her, some of whom hauled off and stormed the Capitol. Hey guys, I think she's calling y'all suckers.
But she's probably just trying to get in some good with all the bad she's been spewing, not only in public, but she took her idiot theories to court, and all their filings were thrown out.
But it turns out, and this is going to shock you, the Kraken wasn't real after all. The last of Powell's lawsuits were thrown out by the conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court earlier this month. Even the beer guy couldn't help Donald out.
What a bunch of crazies these people are. Yes, Powell
Kraken
and Giuliani are crazy, but that is the type of people that Trump surrounds himself with, bunch of crazies. And why? Because Trump is crazy himself. So it's only natural that he would surround himself with a bunch of crazies. What a bunch of heroes these people are. Not. Trump really hates heroes, and one of the biggest heroes and one of the most hated by Trump was Senator John McCain. John McCain was a senator, he was a soldier, and he was a POW in Vietnam. I don't know why Trump hated Mr. McCain so much. I guess it was because Trump never served a day in his life, and he was jealous of Mr. McCain serving, not only serving, but coming out of it a war hero. It must gall Trump for anyone to have done anything he couldn't do or wouldn't do, like serve his country in the armed services. John McCain served in the U.S. Navy, where he was a pilot. He was shot down over Hanoi on October 26, 1967, on his 23rd bombing mission over North Vietnam. He was a prisoner of war for 5.5 years, being tortured unmercifully until his release on March 14, 1973. In 1972, he ran as a Republican and won the open Senate seat in Arizona. He served until his death on August 24, 2018. Asked about his death, and asked about Senator John McCain personally, what did our dear president say? He was captured, and I like guys that aren't captured.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Trump is such a lowlife, he can't even be gracious when asked about Mr. McCain on his death. Again, this proves his authoritarian leans, since who else but a dictator can talk down like this about America's heroes or any other country's heroes. Well, that's it for today, friends. Thank you again for stopping by. Please subscribe and ring the notification bell to be notified of our next video. Once again, thank you, and remember, America needs your vote.